Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Daniel Bowden, and I'm going to tell you why I started this channel and how I got to this point that I am right now as I film this video for you. So, I was born in Queens, New York. Shortly after I was born, we moved to Brooklyn, which is where I spent most of my childhood years. Very, very awful, horrible environment. I mean, to be completely honest, I hated it so much. I hated it so much. I had to fight every day, just going back and forth to school. I mean, and even among the poor kids, I was poor, man. I was poor. I was poor. Um, Later on, we moved. My mother moved us to upstate New York, which was, I would say, infinitely better than growing up in the city, because I guess the kids were less rough around the edges. Unfortunately, I remember when we first moved to upstate New York, no one could understand me because I had a heavy city accent. So I had to learn how to speak in a way they could understand me. Even to this day now, I'm able to code switch. So if I go back to the city, I can talk with them. Um, or if I'm in like a more professional setting, obviously I wouldn't um, talk my city lingo. And when I'm just hanging out with my friends, I'm a little bit more lax. Um, but yeah, so that was what it was like growing up in New York. It wasn't all that bad. I found it to be um, very stressful while I was in it, but once I got out of it, I was very grateful from all the lessons that it taught me moving forward. Because I had, I guess I could say, like right out of high school, because I had no guidance from anyone. It was just my mother and us kids and whoever her boyfriend was at the time. It was rough because, damn, we just had no guidance. I didn't know anything about credit or anything that would get me ahead in life, so I just made tons and tons of mistakes. Honestly, also, I can say that many of the mistakes I did make were not, life ending, anything like that, like some of my other friends, up to and including being, you know, I've had multiple friends that were shot and killed. And can I say that on YouTube? Damn, I don't think I can say that. I've had multiple friends that were deleted with firearms, so uh, I've escaped many horrible things, but I've also experienced a lot of hardships as well. Managed to escape certain things by the skin of my teeth, but I've always been a very observant kid. I was a little bit of an outcast when I was growing up in Brooklyn. I was very tall. I remember that kept me out of a lot of extra trouble, but I was still bullied for some reason, just for number one, being smart, and number two, being just a little bit poorer than the poor kids. Like, man, it's crazy. I was just a little bit poorer than them, but they made it seem like I was just completely beneath them. Rough looking back on that. Crazy how we grow up in those situations where we're all poor and there's still sort of a hierarchy. So that's just a little bit of something for you there to ponder on. In any case, once I graduated, I went to college for a little bit. Again, fumbled. Had no idea what I was doing, and college was a completely college was a completely different world than what I was accustomed to. I wasn't prepared for it at all. So I ended up. Oh, sorry. I also forgot to mention I was taking care of myself while I was in. Since I was toward the end of my high school career, I had an apartment. Excuse me. When I was in the end of my high school career, I had an apartment and I had two roommates, two female roommates. One was my girlfriend, one was my longtime high school friend. And from there, I went to college and was working a job, taking care of all my responsibilities by myself. I had no one to help me. So that taught me a lot. I learned a lot living out on my own and experiencing the world very early after high school. Unfortunately, I had to leave college. I left college and went to work full time because I just wasn't making enough money to support myself or getting enough money from scholarships or grants and things like that. So I had to take care of myself. I was out on my own, and I started my lengthy career in warehousing. And wow, one day I looked up and I had spent 10 years warehousing, 10 years warehousing, and I had nothing to show for it. And the only reason I realized at the time that I had nothing to show for it is because um, I had lost everything in one shot. I lost. Looking back on it, it's crazy. I lost my longtime girlfriend, whom at the time I really, really loved, but it really was not working out. We were having a lot of issues. I got fired, and that's honestly when we started having issues. But I don't blame her. I mean, at the time I was 28 years old, and I'm getting fired from a warehouse job. I mean, I can't blame her. You know, who can blame her when you look back on it? And damn, like all this stuff is like beating down on me at one time. Also, we're going through the infamous virus of the early 2020s. So it was just all these things beating down at once. I had no money, nothing. It was horrible. It was horrible. That was one of the hardest times in my life. I mean, I could honestly say that was probably my rock bottom because I lost everything at that time. I was getting in arguments with my friends because they were trying to tell me, oh, like you can better yourself, you can become a better person, like, and stop thinking about her, and like all this stuff about how like just a bunch of bullshit I really was not trying to hear at the time. And I had friends like laughing at me and stuff, so I got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm not talking to anyone anymore. I'm just gonna go and just handle my business. So, well, I had another job at the time when my ex-girlfriend and I fully separated. We were having problems for months, and like, I mean, we went to couples counseling, all this stuff. This is content for another video though, which I will cover later on. But we were just having a lot of trouble. I ended up getting another job where I was making less money than her, and I got her the job making the money she was making, and she was like looking down on me. I don't want to get too far into it because it's another video. I'll tell the story another time. But anyway, to make a long story short, I was working another job. I sent her off to another state where her family was from. I paid for that, and I was off to start this new journey, this new life. And I was just so depressed, so depressed. Wasn't talking to anyone because my friends were irritating me, making horrible jokes and all these things. And I didn't want to hear anyone's advice. I felt like no one could offer me advice because they hadn't gone through anything I had gone through. Either they had this super cushy life where they had some sort of backdrop to fall down on, some sort of family system, or they just didn't have to produce as much as I had to produce because I had to take care of myself, you know, since I was super young. So I didn't want to hear anyone's advice. No one could give me advice as far as I was concerned at the time. So I worked really hard and just kept working and saving and listening to podcasts, reading books, anything that would keep my mind busy, because at that time I didn't even want to get out of bed to go to work or talk to anyone at work or look anyone at work in their eyes. I had this painful feeling in my gut just thinking about like, oh man, some other dude's probably banging my my girl. You know how it is. It was a rough time in my life. I can look back on it now and laugh because if it wasn't for that horrible situation and, you know, all the years that I had to like look back on and experience the dynamics of relationships, working, society, all these things were such a blessing, and I didn't realize. I had a great time. I mean, I realized I enjoyed that era of my life, but I had to get on to the next era. And because accidentally I spent so much time reading and researching and learning about psychology and human behavior and how to make more money, what job fields I could go into with my lack of education, all these things led to me becoming successful. And I managed to hit $100,000 a year. Imagine that. Prior to that, I had never made more than $50,000 or $60,000 a year, and God, that made me feel pathetic. I was made to feel like a complete loser by my ex's parents, by my friends, by society, by social media, by everything. So when I hit that 100,000, that was a major, major, just milestone in my life. Then I could think to myself like, oh, I am somebody because I had worked so hard to make that money. I'll make a video on that as well, showing you guys how I did it. No, no college needed, nothing. Just doing the research, putting the time in, and following the process, and I did it. And I'm one of the few people that have done it. I even managed to travel the world. I'll tell you right now, when I was at my rock bottom and I was just researching and listening to the people that I respected, um, not in my real life, unfortunately, I didn't have many people in my real life that I respected, but when I was listening to podcasts from people I respected, or videos, interviews, all these things, reading books from people I respected, my life changed forever. Like, wow, looking back on it, I just cannot believe how much it changed. And I ended up making a video about how much I wanted it to change, and predicted a lot of the things that I wanted to happen. When I go back and look at that video now, I'm just so proud of myself. In any case, I should probably be ending this. This is supposed to be just the intro, but just a quick recap of everything that I wanted to convey. My name is Daniel Bowden, and in just a short time span, I changed my life from being a complete loser to becoming a person that I respect and admire, and I think can be an excellent father to a family, a role model to a family, a husband to a beautiful wife, and I'm just going to keep getting better. I've been able to take myself from never earning more than $50,000 to $60,000 a year to becoming a six-figure earner, traveling the world, having experiences I couldn't have dreamed of years ago, and I did that in just a short time span by devoting myself to just learning and understanding that I can do this and anyone can, by inserting what I like to call bravado.